word specifically that Jennifer used was humility, and that is key. The colonial mind is it gets in there in ways, and to really catch that every time you think you might know somebody else's problem or answer to their problem, and realize you don't, and you have to visit. After our first trip to Liberia and Sierra Leone, I came back and said, you won't know if you don't go. I mean, you cannot do it any other way. And then you won't know if you don't listen. And it's so, for us, it was, we talk about everything coming from the ground up in terms of how we're trying to fund and everything else. Well, it's true with the foundation as well. I mean, we had to build it from the ground up. We saw things, we thought about things, and then we hired people, once we knew what we wanted to do. And that was a huge plus. A lot of people come in, for instance, at the Ford Foundation, with an established institution in place, and that's a different animal. And we were very fortunate that we had nothing in place, and we could think about what we wanted to do, how we wanted to do it, where we wanted to go, and all that, with always, again, humility at the fore, and that's key in giving. We are living in natural systems, and natural systems do not exist in isolation. Everything's connected, and when you start to see, economic justice, social justice, environmental justice, healthcare, all these different things start to weave, education systems, agricultural systems. It's all, frankly, kind of a mess, but not overwhelming if you kind of, again, step back and find. We think of it sort of as acupuncture, in terms of trying to go in and figure out where we can put dollars to release energy that will allow this body of humanity to get a little more healthy. But it's all interconnected, and I think it's super important. What we're finding is we started not wanting silos, but starting to fall into a little bit of siloed thinking, but immediately said, this is wrong, this is all connected, and we have to stay up here where we can, and find out, how to partner with people that understand this kind of thinking, and work in ways that are in fact an ecosystem approach, essentially.
I also think, to build on that we are so, in philanthropy, we get our areas of interest we care about, which is what we should be doing and is natural to do. But that doesn't necessarily mean that then you go and treat that symptom, or that you come at it with,
because it is a symptom,
the logical, like, we just have to get girls in school, or we just, and so for us now, we're starting to see, because we spend a lot of time thinking about this and looking at the world, looking at things more holistically and in an interconnected way. We care about so many different things. We care about the degradation of the planet, trafficking of women and children, economic justice. I mean, that's happening with climate change, on and on. I mean, you can step back a little bit. You may enter these spaces a little less, like you said, siloed, and a little more holistically to think about what you would start to put your money or energy or time into building. Or just like if somebody comes to the doctor with a whole host of symptoms, you wouldn't necessarily treat those symptoms. You want to have a little more of a holistic perspective, considering the emotions of that person, the spirituality of that person, the body, what their story is, all these things.
The home life.
So that's the kind of role I think we're trying to play right now, is to really step back, look historically, systemically, holistically at what's going down in terms of the breakdown of many things, and how we would use our relatively small resources to make a potent difference. It's more about what happens in the process, less the result. And I think you can see, we can all have an intervention, and you start to see results right away. Anytime there's an action, there's a reaction, no matter what we do. But we're thinking it less so much like intervention, result, boom, we're done, to intervention into a system. Things take time. Like you would, the metaphor I use for philanthropy, and that guides me every single day that I love, is the garden metaphor. So you want to grow a garden of a variety of things that you want to harvest for your family, for your best nutrition for yourself and your family and your garden. It's going to take some time. You don't plant a seed and you have an eggplant or a tree or whatever it is, right? And that is the kind of way I think that we're looking at results, is how can we set up a garden where we've gotten a sense of the quality of the soil. So at a foundational level, is it a junkyard we're working in? Has the soil been completely depleted? What do we need to do to bring back the health of the soil that's not going to create a whole host of other problems? And then what kinds of things do we want to plant? What maybe should we plant first next to other things, and so on and so on and so on. So I think we love to, in our modern day age, have sort of input, output, return on investment, be able to really measure it. I mean, that would be wonderful if we really lived in that world. I think that's a complete fantasy. So I think that garden metaphor is a way better thing to help you guide you in your work. And we actually have a farmer that lives in our land. We live upstate, and I was complimenting Jacob, is his name, once, and saying, "You grow such amazing vegetables." And he said, "I don't grow vegetables." And I said, "What are you talking about?" "Yes, you do." And he said, "No, I don't grow vegetables. Vegetables grow themselves. Life grows itself. My job is to go out there and listen and pay attention and say maybe a little bit water here, a little pruning here, whatever, and to tend the garden." So.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, we talk about, again, at the foundation, creating conditions for change. We don't know exactly how something's going to happen. We can't say to an adolescent girl, you should grow up and be this, but we can give her the opportunity to grow up and be what she's going to grow up and be, and hopefully, yeah. So it really is, again, especially not measuring inputs, but we tell people on our staff that we may be dead when some of these things happen, in terms of come to fruition. Certainly with girls, it's generational change. It could be 1, 2, 3 generations before the full flowering of these things happen. So, and it's wonderful that more and more business people and business minds are getting into philanthropy, but not if they're expecting quarterly returns. That's the mindset that has to be removed from the business head if they're getting into philanthropy.
And also not to get myopic about it, because you can say we're an intervention and you can measure something that makes you look really successful, but then there's a whole 99% of the conditions are still bleak. But you're measuring this one little thing that says, "Wow, we've done a great job, great, we're done, we're moving on," So.